Hello and welcome to another LinkedIn Live with me, Garth Sharif. I'm excited to be back after a week off last week. I've been going week to week with LinkedIn Live. Took last week. It wasn't really off. I was just delivering a training program and I was not able to have a LinkedIn Live session, but I'm glad I could be here today. This session, this LinkedIn Live, I call it like a session, like it's a classroom or something. But this episode was really supposed to be a continuation of ChatGPT and me. And if you were there for the last uh, live stream I did, it was a conversation on what I am going to try to do to integrate ChatGPT into my business. And the ChatGPT and me was a play on the infamous ET ripoff Mac and Me, which Conan O'Brien and Paul Rudd have made fun of before. And that's just in case you want to know where the name is. In that episode, a couple of weeks ago, I talked the explorer exploit mentality, and this was from another episode I discussed with Ezra Klein, uh, really talking about the way in which we develop our learning and how we process new information, how we quickly move it as adults to this exploit phase. And that in a time of learning where we have to learn how to use or integrate or adopt or just partner with artificial intelligence and generative AI, it's better to be right now in the explorer phase. And that's what I was using Sharif Consulting, my business, to do, go through and brainstorm different ways I could use ChatGPT. And these are the ways I came up with a couple of weeks ago: content idea generation, project management, market research, blog posts, SEO, search engine optimization help, and scheduling. And then I also asked ChatGPT, how should Sharif Consulting use ChatGPT? And ChatGPT gave me a response. It gave me several responses. Some of them aligned to what I had, others were a little bit generic. One was interesting to me in terms of uh, understanding my business a little bit better. But that's where we stopped in terms of just exploring ways I could use ChatGPT. And part two was really meant to discuss, maybe the one or two ideas that I was going to select. But I'm going to pivot today. I'm going to move from that topic. I'm going to come back to it, how I'm going to use ChatGPT in my business. Just because there's been so much news in the last week or so, I thought I'd just give us a little bit of a summary for those that may not know or are keeping up a little bit slightly, but there's just so much news happening around generative AI, and I wanted to give you some brief insights, and especially news that's pertinent to me. Uh, you may know or may not know there is a strike with SAG, the Screen Actors Guild, and AFTRA that are striking, and this has caused some issues for those in Hollywood. And there's been the big releases of Oppenheimer and Barbie, or Barbenheimer as it's known. And some of the actors, for example, for Oppenheimer, walked off the press tour for that film because they wanted to draw attention to the strike. And there's several aspects of the strike that is there that's relevant to me. I'm a member of ACTRA as a former actor. I guess I still do a little bit of acting, but I am a union member of ACTRA, which is the Alliance for Canadian Television Radio Artists, Canadian Artists. This is something that I'm very interested in, and also quite concerned around for artists and actors. And it comes back to one of the episodes we talked about with who owns the IP for ChatGPT. ChatGPT and other generative AI, and there's a fantastic article on the Atlantic, which I'm posting later on this afternoon, which just discusses the history of OpenAI and Sam Altman, who is the CEO. And one of the things that they eventually realized is that, well, why do we just limit the information we can give to GPT-4, the engine behind ChatGPT? Why don't we give it the internet? Let it be unsupervised, get the information from the internet, learn through patterns and inferences and neural networks, which what generative AI is, and it can start to develop faster and provide more interesting responses to questions and write prose and complex computer programs. but we need to give it a vast data source. So everything on the internet is available for ChatGPT, and it seemed innocuous at the time. Just give this open AI software a huge data platform. But now, how I'm tying this back to the actor strike is that information on the internet is somebody's, right? It is somebody's. And so there's a few things that are happening with that strike in terms of thinking about artificial intelligence that might have broader implications. One is actors are worried that, yes, they might be replaced by artificial intelligence. There's already a discussion around it for background performers, which is its own occupation, and what the unions are going to do around that. And then there's the other part of this is, what does it mean for the intellectual property of an actor, their headshot that's on the internet, their bio, other things that they put out there? Because a lot of what actors have to do is put their audio, their videos, their their reels onto spaces so other casting agents and other producers can see them. How are open generative AI going to take that information? Are they going to use it to build avatars? Are they going to use it to build other acting resources that are not getting back to the actors in terms of payments or royalties? Back to a question with generative AI on intellectual property, and that's where the fight is really with the SAG strike. Is what is happening with the content that ChatGPT is using. Sarah Silverman, the stand-up comedian, has also raised concern, is launching a lawsuit to say, are you using my material, my written material, my image, anything without my permission, without some attribution or even royalties or some financial remuneration coming back to me? So that is part of the strike that you may or may not know of. And that strike, if it continues on for a while, you will begin to know, because it will affect film production and the amount of movies that we might see coming up into 2024, the blockbuster season, the summer season of 2024. So that to me is something that's relevant to me as an actor. And I do have a point of view here with this. I do hesitate with ChatGPT, even in this exercise with ChatGPT and me, where I'm going to integrate ChatGPT into my business and find out maybe what the best way to use ChatGPT is for Sharif Consulting. And I'm going to be green hat, open mind, creative, brainstorm, not hold back in terms of the possibilities. But when I do come to be critical of some of the possibilities, I won't be able to help myself but to think, where did this information come from? Am I at all trampling on someone else's IP? That's just from an exposure point of view, but also from just the right thing to do point of view. I don't want to use other people's intellectual property without attribution. And we all might do this from time to time unknowingly, but with ChatGPT, it's a knowing. We should know about that. When we take content from ChatGPT, we don't know the source, but it might be taking pieces from articles, from artists, from journals, where there's no attribution back to the source, and also the author may not have wanted that information being used that way. And that's one of my biggest concerns with using ChatGPT sort of in the public space. Some of the ideas from ChatGPT and me was marketing and maybe blog writing, but I don't know if I want to go that way. Again, I'm trying not to black hat this yet, even though I am a little bit, because I am concerned that I don't know the source, not only for purposes that I might be using someone's IP, but from the feeling like I don't want to use somebody's work that they put into writing an article, drawing a painting, whatever it might have been, and then use pieces of it unknowingly within an output for my business. And so that's my biggest concern with ChatGPT right now. And I just wanted to bring that up as part of my Today in Generative AI news, that if you heard about the SAG strike, and there's also a writer strike as well. There's a lot of things happening in Hollywood because AI is game changing for Hollywood. I mean, we all talk about the different professions in which generative AI may impact you. As a CPA, we're still not that impacted. And hi Sam, how's it going? Hi, I have some few individuals. I can put the chat overlay on here and show a few comments. I hope I can. No, I cannot. Oh, there we go. I can. That's great. I can show the chat overlay of those that are saying hi. Fantastic. Um, just learning some new tools inside of Restream, which is what I use to do this. Now, when it comes to uh, artists and others that are concerned, yes, this is a big thing because the profession of being an artist, a writer in Hollywood, making films, or not just in Hollywood, theater performers, anywhere you're creating art, that group I think is one of the most vulnerable groups right now for generative AI, not only for replacement, but remember, generative AI is not creative. It's not creating new content. It's not writing new prose. It's not writing novels. It's taking existing information, using patterns and inferences from all that available information, learning how to produce outputs, but it's using things that are already existing and taking bits and pieces of it knowingly and then repurposing them. And so artists, writers, musicians, they're the ones that are the most vulnerable for potentially having their work used without any recognition or financial remuneration. So just for those that have been following that, that's part of my news of the day. The second news of the day, and I highly recommend this article. I'm going to post it later on this afternoon as a as in our article to read. This is from the Atlantic. This is, does Sam Altman know what he's creating? And it's a fantastic long read. I absolutely recommend it if you're trying to just understand how we got here. How did we get to ChatGPT? It just seemed to come out of the blue just a year ago, and it's the highest consumer sign up product of all time with 100 million people signed up for ChatGPT. But how did we get here from where we were just even last year? We weren't talking about this. And this article goes into how OpenAI was created. Elon Musk was one of the founders, but was one of the founders, is no longer as involved. Sam Altman is the CEO and was one of the founders as well. It's a not for profit organization. And how they went from creating this not for profit for just the idea that AI should be for everyone. Let's brainstorm, let's be creative, let's get the best minds in the world, to creating GPT-4, the engine behind ChatGPT. And it's really interesting because not only does it go through the history of OpenAI and how this came to be, but it also goes through Sam Altman's thought process, because they also went through some of the real downsides, negative possibilities putting this out in the world could bring. They even talk about in the article that they could have waited until this was even more fully formed, waited until 2024 or 2025 to release this. But they actually worried about the impact of releasing this fully formed on humanity. So they thought this would be a better way to release this kind of partially so that people can get used to this, because this is going to affect the world. It's going to affect behavior, and they didn't just want to throw it into consciousness in front of us. And I use consciousness with quotes, not AI consciousness, but as a metaphor, just bringing it to our attention, to our consciousness. And what it discusses and the author Ross Anderson is layering this concept of, do we know what we're doing here by giving this, by like opening up this door? And the movie Oppenheimer is out, and I haven't seen it yet. And if you've seen it, please let me know. Don't give away anything, even though I know what happens. I was always interested in what happened with the development of the atomic bomb. There's a fantastic book which is on my reading list, The Making of an Atomic Bomb, because that is about creativity, teamwork, collaboration, but in this building of something that could kill us all. It's just a question of, should we use our intellect? Should we use our scientific capabilities for this? I mean, is this a good thing to have? And there's a parallel here to this and artificial intelligence that Ross Anderson doesn't draw directly, I think, to Oppenheimer, but the concept is, do we know what we have done here by making this available? Does OpenAI know? And Sam Altman has gone through sort of the doomsday scenarios and thinking about what it could be. Obviously, OpenAI and Sam Altman value the the benefits and the pros of ChatGPT and other generative AI more than they see the potential doomsday scenarios or some of the difficulty really trying to adopt this and what it can mean for not just actors and artists, but for everyone, just understanding that this is eventually going to get smarter and smarter. Not conscious AI, not yet, but to a point where maybe it's at the level of a college graduate, is what it mentioned in the article. And it can produce responses and outputs at that level. Whew, what does it mean for society? What does it mean for the rest of the world? And what I got from the article is that they've thought about it. They've mapped out some ethical implications and possibilities, but they haven't. They don't really know. They don't really know, and it's a fascinating article to read through. So I'm going to come back to that. So that's today in generative AI news. The SAG strike, which you may have heard of, that's AI is a big reason for that strike and the concern over actors being replaced, background artists being replaced, and also how are images and video from actors being used, and where's the residuals. Another part of that, of course, is streaming, which is related, but another big part is streaming has actually made it very difficult for actors to earn residuals. The idea that you can just make as much content as possible, like Netflix and Hulu and Prime, but really what you're trying to do there is make the production costs as minimal as possible, and really kind of through the streaming data freeze out what are normal royalties and residuals for actors that they used to get through normal cable network distribution when their shows were on television. And so there's some reflection on, yes, streaming is fantastic. It's produced a massive amount of content, but the actors are not seeing very much of that financial revenue from that, and that's part of the strike. So that's generative AI news as it relates to actors, artists, and artificial intelligence. And that fantastic article, does Sam Altman know what he's creating? Stay tuned, 2 o'clock today. I'll just put that article out there with a blurb ahead of that article. And then ChatGPT and me, we'll come back to this. I'm going to come back to trying to use ChatGPT. I'm going to continue to explore ways to use ChatGPT within Sharif Consulting. And again, with some caution, I am going to try to, when we talk about brainstorming, we talk about analyze, brainstorm, and conclude. And really, they should be linked but separate. The brainstorming process should not be critical. You shouldn't be critical of an idea. You shouldn't already think, oh, this won't work, because you won't necessarily come up with all the ideas that you would have. You want to be as creative and as open and as positive as possible. So I'll try to do that, but I'm also in the background, not to undercut what I just said, going to be conscious that I'm not using content that I don't feel uncomfortable about where the source came from. And that's something that's really important to me. All right. I think that's all from me. Thank you for joining. For those that are here, I appreciate you. For those that, Sai and Sam, for sending a hi and good morning. A hi and good morning to you as well. Thanks for watching. I'll be on, I believe, next week. You'll see it on my events page on LinkedIn with another LinkedIn Live. But again, thank you for watching today's episode, and I hope to see you for our next episode. Take care, everyone.